Hello everyone, my name is Mike and I am the co-founder of the Pratnicka Center. Today we're going to talk about addictions and I want to go much deeper than usual about willpower or habit. Every addiction starts the same way. It is about running from yourself. There is always an emotion underneath. Sadness, emptiness, fear that we personally are refusing to face. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, or compulsive work, or constant TV watching, or obsessive perfectionism, they are all the same thing. It is a substitute for confronting what's really going on the inside. And the much harder fact is that spirits of diseased people are playing a major role in keeping people in that trap. And the explanation is really easy. Once someone is starting to use addictive substances regularly, they attract spirits. It is about ghosts who had that same addiction in physical life and never crossed over to the other side. And from that moment, the craving is no longer only your business. It starts to become also the spirit's business. We are going also to talk today about people who are around the addict, because they often unknowingly and unconsciously are making things worse. We will discover their patterns that feel like loyalty, but actually they are keeping everyone stuck. So the first very important fact: people are not becoming addicted because they are weak. They become addicted because something inside hurts, and it hurts tremendously. And they haven't been shown or taught how to look at it directly. And the funny issue is, and weird issue is, that the world keeps showing them the problem all the time, but they keep looking for a way out of that situation they are facing. And there are things that are feeling that emptiness inside for a short period of time, like alcohol, like pills, like sexuality, gambling, overwork. We could call it a satisfier. Of course, everybody knows, including the addict, that it doesn't solve the problem. On the contrary, the problem keeps growing underneath more and more. And therefore the addict needs of that substance more and more. It might be that you have seen that old image of an ostrich burying its head in the sands to feel safe. And that tragedy is exactly what the addict is doing. And of course, the threat doesn't disappear because you can't see it. And problems that aren't faced just don't sit still. They pile on top of each other faster than we could ever expect. And here is the deeper explanation why spirits are playing a role in that whole thing. When an alcoholic or a drug addict dies, they most of the time don't cross over. In the emotional sphere, an addict is building a sphere of craving, and that sphere is not disappearing the moment a person dies. And sometimes even they don't realize that they are dead physically. And because they were so foggy from years of drinking, they continue that tendency even after their physical body is no longer present. So where to still that craving they have? They need to find people who are actually drug addicts or alcoholics in the physical body still. So they will find bars or parties or places where alcoholics or drug addicts are. And they don't just watch. Watching other people drink is only half satisfying for a spirit. What they really want is to participate at it. So they are doing whatever they can to attach to living people who are drinking. And then they can feed off both the alcohol and the person's energy. It is rather easy to approach a person who is overusing a substance because both parties, the living and the dead, they have the same craving inside. They are very good friends in a sense. And when you wake up the next morning with a horrible hangover, then it is very often not only the alcohol as a poison working in your physical body, it is also the effect of the spirit or spirits sometimes. And a lot of that is originating from the energy drain that you have experienced the day before. And if you happen to drink regularly, then the chance is high that there are many spirits attached to you. And from that moment, the craving intensifies. All of the sudden, you find more and more occasions to drink. You all of the sudden bump into your neighbor who happens to hold a bottle in his hand. These are not coincidences. Spirits work together to create such opportunities. People addicted to alcohol often hear this sentence: he is a completely different person when he drinks. And that sentence is literally more true than you can realize. When the spirit takes over, the person's character, his reactions, and even physical appearance is shifting. And here is an example that is making this very, very visible. A man who came to us for help married years ago a tall, slim, blonde woman, and she was his type completely. But when he drank, a spirit of a man who lived centuries ago would take over, and that spirit was someone who despised thin women. So, every time this man drank, he would fly into rage at his wife for no reason. And in the morning he woke up every single time, horrified, scared, having no memory of what happened. And he was wondering how he could have done this to someone he loved. And yes, he wasn't lying. He genuinely wasn't there. The spirit was. And sometimes there is not even only one spirit inside a physical body of a human being. There may be many, many spirits inside. And then there is no longer this individual inside. You see a crowd of other personalities inside of a person you know. And now I would like to talk a little bit about the environment of the addict and how that influences his behavior. First of all, covering for the addict may feel like love, but actually it is not. When your husband is missing an appointment because he was drunk and you call his boss to make excuses, you are protecting him from the consequences of his own bad behavior. That feels kind, but it's actually one of the most damaging things you can do. That way, the family sinks with the addict. You start taking on more and more of the responsibilities of the addict. And in the beginning, out of necessity, then out of habit. And then all of a sudden you realize you are running two people's lives. And the addict is experiencing zero consequences. In that situation, why would anything need to change? The addict feels really comfortable in that situation. And there are many people who are staying in that dynamic for years, even decades. When you ask these people in the environment of the addict why they are doing this, they will say, because I love him. However, what's really happening in that situation is much more complex. The person who is taking care for the addict is receiving something from the situation. sympathy, a sense of purpose, a kind of attention from people surrounding the addict and the caretaker. However, these are only substitutes for the real intimacy missing from that relationship. The pity of others is taking the role of love in the relationship. What is the turning point and what actually is changing things? And here the most important thing is a crisis. It is a gift in disguise. When a wife leaves, when a job is lost, when friends stop calling, this feels for the addict like a catastrophe. It is the moment of opportunity. The addict is finally experiencing the consequences of their own life, and exactly that shock can create space for a change. And here is a remarkable story of a woman who spent years covering for her alcoholic husband. She was lying to business contacts, she was taking over responsibilities that were his, she was enduring violence at home. And then, one day, something changed. A phone rang while he was drunk, and instead of making excuses, she simply said, "Well, he can't come to the phone right now because he's drunk as usual." And from that day forward he began drinking with moderation, and that only because he was afraid of what she might say next. So she achieved a remarkable result by finally refusing to protect him from himself. An addict is, of course, in a very difficult situation. He or she, they might be able to see the destruction that is going on in their lives because of alcohol or any other substance, but they still may not be able to change. Sometimes people very desperately want to stop, and they can't, and not because of a character or weakness. Once they have been drinking regularly, the channels, the subtle channels to the astral world and to the spirits, they are open. The moment alcohol enters the physical body of the person, even small amounts, the spirits are drawn to that person immediately. And so the craving that follows is not just the business of the addict, it is also the business of the spirits who are there and who are projecting on the individual amounts of craving that no man on this earth can face and can withstand. And that is exactly why total abstinence is necessary, not moderation. Moderation is not the way out of the situation. Okay, thank you so much for listening to the first part of that podcast. I will continue in 2 weeks, and until then, I wish you to stay well. Bye-bye.